You made it.
He's near enough, lads.
How are they all in Tralee? You made it.
He's near enough, lads.
How are they all in Tralee?
Do you know what? It's amazing how the memories come back. We were playing in Tralee one day and the pitch is flooded. No way the game should be played. So the lads have the fire brigade in, 2 engines, right? And they're pumping the water off one part and it's coming in the far end. But the game was played anyhow. Right? And I always remember it was all our midfielders were all injured, and I remember saying to a chap called Colin Coyle, and every sort of team needs a Colin Coyle. I said, listen, will you play midfield for me today? He said it'd be a change for Jacko to have to follow somebody else. And it's amazing that sort of confidence. Small men are a bit like that at times. No, it's strange. During the week I was talking to people about the dementia centre in Croom and so on, and Tina just said when we discovered where we were, maybe we were making a call in the way home. You
got here, that's the main thing. You made it.
Yeah, delighted to be here. Absolutely delighted. Honoured to be here. Absolutely. And it's an historic club, it's historic players, but it's funny how the memories you come in and you see Kieran and Darren here on the platform. You won't say this, Pat, but you know the way when the lads were in the hotel in Dunboyne, they stayed in every night, they never went out or never went anywhere. But on the Sunday morning, anyhow, the lads would arrive up sometimes in our place. And this particular Sunday morning, our son Kieran rings me at 9:45 in the morning. He said, where are you? I said, I'm in Ferry. I'm over at Tattersall's. What are you doing over there? I said, Aoife's riding in the cross-country, the 100 trials, cross-country. Jesus Christ, when is she finished? I said, she's out now. She'll be finished in about 2 minutes. Well, when she comes back, get your arse back here, he said. Star is out sitting on the swing and Darren O'Sullivan is pushing him. So there was the swing afterwards. Like that.
Oh, yes. You two do go way back. Was the 08 final, was that the first coming together?
No, I was involved with Sean in 06 and international rules, yeah. I didn't do a great job from knowing that series. He dropped me for the second game.
He was a model pro, I'd say, was he?
Well, it was complete bonus territory for me. I was after winning my first All-Ireland. I never thought I'd do that in the first place. And for Sean to ring me up and ask me to come into an Irish team was quite a big bonus. And Sean, we did training. We played with Munster over in Roscommon somewhere, that's not right. The Hyde, but some other place in Roscommon. We played against Connacht in the interprovincials, and the final was on out in Boston. And a big deal, like a trip to Boston, mighty. Munster were mad for it. Kerry fellas were shaking hands with Cork fellas and hugging them. We sorted it all out in Boston, lads. Yeah. And we were flying it. We were up 3 or 4 pints, and they got 2 pints and brought it back to 2-pint game. And Philly Ryan, the big Tipperary lad, was in goals. I think he's Philly Ryan. Was he Philly Ryan? Yeah. Good keeper. But this ball came in, he got a bit of a rush of blood, and it came in over the top of everybody, and he went running out mad for it, and it bounced, went clean over his head, and trickled past the line in the last minute. And from the resulting kick out, the ref blew the whistle, and you never saw a bunch of Munster men as disappointed in all your life. And not only that, then we had to make it back to Dublin for a training session at 9 o'clock the following morning with Ireland. So myself and Mahoney were going back in the car, and yeah, I know Mahoney out here as well.
He's somewhat of mind of many.
And we got there and we were devastated and kind of sore, and I was after getting a dead leg, and you know, Mahoney was like, come on, we'll go into town. All right, so we went into town. As you do, we ended up in Coppers, usual 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Out then for the training session. I'll never forget it. We were going down to the training session at 8:30, and I'm jogging down, and it's cold. It's October, like it's getting right before we're about to go. And Bomber kind of puts his arm around me. Bomber was a selector for Sean. Bomber says, you know, Kevin Riley is on you today now, and I won't lie here, you need a bit of a performance, because I hadn't done much. I'd only been at one session, and I wasn't great that day, because obviously probably over-celebrated the whole Kerry winning my first All-Ireland. So Bomber said, you need a big session out here today. And I was kind of going, oh, Jesus Christ, little does he know.
I would have thought he was pretty much an automatic selection for any international rules team. The height, the physicality,
well,
the temperament.
I have to say, when I'm down here, he's a certainty, sure. You know what I mean? Well, the strange thing about the international rules was the honour that everybody felt to actually play for the country. When Nicky Brennan rang me to take charge, I thought it was a wind-up, a bit like what you were doing with Dara. And I'm serious now. And the reason I say this is because, you know, some people can be very much in favour of the powers that be, and some people are not, and some counties are, and some are not. And in All-Ireland final in 88 in a replay against Cork, Jerry McEntee found he had an early break. Do you understand? And it carried on about bringing the association into disrepute and so on. And anyhow, we didn't get the All-Star trip on the head of it and so on, but that didn't make the slightest difference. But you come along then in sort of 89 and 90, and you're beaten again in 90 and beaten in 91. And what I never knew was that whoever managed the team that lost in All-Ireland managed the All-Star team. But I never knew that because I was never asked. Do you understand?
Yeah. Right.
So when I was asked in 2006 to manage an Irish team, I thought this was unbelievable. And never enjoyed anything like it in my life. And it was really interesting to see the commitment that As gave to it. And 2005 had been a disaster. And you know, out there, like
yeah.
the Gooch would bear me out in this. It was just everything that it shouldn't be.
The Gooch had a 12-minute cameo that year.
Oh, stop! But like it was.
I saw a few fellas getting decapitated, and he was like, "What on life?" This calf is like all of a sudden.
But like, in fairness, sort of the rules got sorted out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? and that went on from there, and it became a great series, and we had the time of our life. And it was a very simple thing. I had a very simple philosophy, Pat. It was this: is that Graham Canty, Kevin Riley, Finian Hanley, Sean Kavanagh himself, all the big men, as we would call them, like from full forward back to full back. I just said, now lads, I'm just telling you this. In this series, in Australia, none of you are coming off. There's no such thing as getting a break. Now the lads of the wing, and I didn't bear me out in this, and Killian Young, right? You know, Jesus Christ, you're going to run your backside off. You're the ones who go. But the other boys could fill in anywhere along the line. And that was the idea of it. And won the series by 2 points. But it was an amazing series. And on one condition, you know, you're allowed to bring 3 extra players. And I said, on one condition, that the 3 lads, there's no players going to go to Australia and not play a game. So I go to Killian's dressing room for the second match because he didn't play in the first match. And he was very young, 2008. Mm-hmm. And knock at the door. Oh, Jesus, no. Oh, no, Sean, can't be again. And there was a young chap, Kieran, right? Kieran Ling from Wexford. He was in his room, and it was Kieran who wasn't going to be played. And he said, but poor Killian, when he saw me, he didn't think of Kieran at all. Oh, jeez, oh, no, Sean, you're not going to leave me off again, right?
You're all right, send out the other fella.
Yeah, it was a strange time, but it was a great game, played well, but it was a powerful experience for every single one of us.
Yeah, you fixed my knee that before I was having trouble. I hurt my knee against Cork in the semi-final, Pat, and a kick out late on, I landed it and just tweaked whatever that ligament is going down there, and I was grand. I got strapped up, patted. You weren't missing training, and Pat, he'd be like, strap that up, you'll be fine. So I strapped it up and went out and played and didn't play great in the final. We lost or whatever, and then Sean was on about we're going to Australia, we're going to win, and we want to win it after what happened in 06. And I was saying my knee is kind of, you know, I heard, no, just come up and look, and if you get through a few sessions and you do play well at all, we want to bring you. So I went over, got on the plane, which was all important. I wasn't like the Bomber now. Bomber pulled his hamstring in the last trial match of the international rules back in 88. And he went home and strapped it with ice and said nothing to nobody and stumbled onto the plane the following morning. Woke up in Australia. The hamstring was black and blue. It was a rough flight, no, in fairness. But I got on the plane and I was out there, and I had kind of the issue, and I was kind of, the physios were looking at it, and nobody had been able to really kind of get any comfort into it for me. And Sean,
are you an agent, are you?
I call him Mr. Miyagi. From kind of, he's that kind of sense about him. So he said, "What's wrong with that knee?" And I said, "I tweaked some ligament and it affected this and affected." And he brought me into the room and says to one of the lads with us, "Turn off all the lights." And I said, "What?"
Never told a lie in his life.
So the lights went off, and he pulled over. He took off his shoes and socks. Tina, shoes and socks came off. And I said, "Jesus." And he got down and he worked on it, and he did his getting blood flow going. Sean, I won't go into the ins and outs of it because I wouldn't have a clue. But no word of a lie, like, I'd been strapping this thing to train, and I had to strap it to train. I had to strap it in an All-Ireland final. If you're playing in an All-Ireland final and you don't have an injury, you're not wearing a strapping. So if I had it on, because I hate strapping, I'm going to rip off strapping after the warm-up because I don't like it.
You don't want the opposition to see it.
Kind of as well. So I had this thing in and I strapped and all the time, and woke up the next morning and got out of bed, and the first bit of pain that I'd always getting was getting up out of the ground, because whatever was obviously lying in the position all night, you're kind of whatever. So I got up and there was nothing wrong with it. And I said, "Jesus Christ." I went out and down onto the pitch for a training session, and I was kind of nervous, kind of waiting for this little bit of pain to kick in, and I was jogging around and jogging a bit faster. Then I said, "Geez, I'll try and kick a ball without the strapping," because kick the ball, no problem. And went on and played two good games. It was my obviously, like, I didn't play great in 06, but in 08 I was delighted with my performance, and to get the win. The first win in Perth was unbelievable in the Subiaco, and it was a historic stadium. And I remember saying to Tig after 06, because I was disappointed, being dropped and I wasn't good enough, and I was saying, if it's on, I want to play in the Subiaco, because that's where he had the big battle with the West Coast Eagles. And in the Aussie rules games we would have seen back in the day would have been those two going against each other. So we had a great win out there, and then went down to Melbourne. And
I presume after Sean saving your knee, and knowing you were going to play every minute of both games, you treated the journey with the professionalism it needed and kept the head down for the week.
We were after winning in Perth, so that wasn't going to happen. We're after winning in Perth, and the usual, Ty Kennelly had some bar, the Subi bar or something, he'd someplace booked for us. We walked in, it was great crack, had a great night. Got up the next morning, gotten down to the aeroplane, and my lack of knowledge at the time, and I'd be considering myself the only subject I was decent at in school was geography, so I was very disappointed in myself. But I sat into the plane, and the pilot goes, "Flight time today is 7 hours and 55." I said, 7 fucking hours? 7 hours? We're going from one part of the country to the next part of the country. So that's not understanding how fully big Australia was. But we landed in Melbourne, and then Sean and the lads, to their credit, after the excitement of the first game, wanted to take us away from the limelight of Melbourne and the nightlife and the pubs and the crack and whatever. So they took us up to this place, Apollo Bay. Do you remember that Apollo Bay place?
Gold Coast.
Yeah, it was up along the Gold Coast, and we were after a big long flight, which I slept for because I'm a good man to sleep. Hillary will vouch for that. I'll sleep on a bed of nails, and slept the whole way over. So I was full of energy landing, and there was one or two with me, but the rest of the boys, they were all wrecked and tired. And, oh Jesus, dying from the night before. And so we got to the hotel, and Sean, and I think you might have actually got Kieran McGeaney to do it, kind of, look lads, or Anthony Toll, or one of the big serious guys who would lay down the law. Sean wouldn't even mess with that, so he'd lay down the law to the boys. So, no, lads, we won yesterday, we have a game in 7 days, big game, we want you all to get some rest. And we were like, Jesus, let's put the kibosh in it. But as we were turning around, this was on the bus, and as we were turning around the corner, there was a bar across the way from the hotel, and there was a load of these, like the top of the windows there, like a load of them going across, like a full line of them, and all you could see was strobe lights going in the head. So I was in the back with Finn Hanley, and I said, Jesus Christ, that place is fucking rocking. We'll have to go down there for a drink. Like, are you tired? And I'm grand. I slept the whole way too. So we were rooming together, so we'd room together for the whole trip. So we were like, we'll be rooming together, we'll go down and have a few drinks. So we went, and then as we got to the hotel, Joe McMahon from Tyrone, who I'd hated that because they're after beating us in the away final. But at this stage, being the kind of guy I am, he was on my team. I liked him. No, he was cool. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing? You look a bit giddy." I said, "Oh, I'm going to the bar down there, for a few vodkas and cranberry juice." And down we went, and there was a doorman there at the front of the hotel. So we made him off, and we called him over to us, gave him $50, and said we'll be back here at about 3:00, and just opened the back door in case the management team were around the place. So we German teed up anyway around the back door, went out and had a great crack, massive night, came back. Your man led us in, up to the rooms, fell asleep, up the next morning, 9:00, boys had a training session organised above in the local pitch. Yeah. So we go up there, and I come down the stairs dying now, kind of, after the night before, 2 nights of it in a row. And I go in, and I never forget it, Sean was sitting by himself, and I sat down next to him. I just kind of let out kind of a sigh, like, Are you right, Kieran? Fuck it, Sean. I'm fucked from the plane, jet lags of bollocks.
Gone through one time zone.
Sean being the legend he is. This is only, we're doing a bit of training, but look, we're 5 days. Go on away inside and get some rest and go into bed. I said, no problem. And as I turned the corner to head for the hotel, I looked over my shoulder, and there was Henley and Joe McMahon looking out the window. So sorry about that, Charlie. We won, so it was all good. That's all right.
Wow. I'd say you love that, what he's talking about there. The Kerry and Tyrone play this epic All-Ireland final in 08, and it seemed there was a bit of genuine animosity between the teams, and then you get them together, and actually very quickly it all
on the Saturday afterwards. Couldn't believe first one there was Sean Kavanagh. I think it could be 2 reasons. I think maybe Mickey might have been too happy with him playing. Do you understand? But he and the lads were there, and Conor Gormley, Conor McGinley, they were there, and ultimate pros. But they were good crack as well, and they were really good crack. And but say the likes of John Biscuit from Cork, John would have been a late starter, and suddenly for him to find himself there, Killian was only starting his career. You know what I mean? Mm. And I remember talking to Paul Finley's, Kieran Finley's father, who used to play for Monaghan, and saying to the Jap, as he was called, "Listen, yourself and Joe Kiernan, they were in charge of Ulster, for the Raven Cup." I said, "Lads, look, your sons are going to be playing for Ireland." And Aaron was with us as well. And they said, no. I said, "Lads, come out." And the regrets that they had afterwards that they didn't come out, and poor Kieran died and everything else. You know what I mean? It was, but it is an extraordinary situation when you go out there. And in an awful long time ago, back in 1968, Meath team played 5 matches out in Australia, and I was supposed to go on the trip. And my dad was 88 years of age at the time. He was years older than my mother. Sort of family tradition down in that. And anyhow, I was hurling mad. But to be asked to go with the squad was a huge thing. And but my father said to me, he said, "Have you 2 National Hurling League matches? Are you playing Antrim? Are you playing down?" I said, "We are, yeah." And that's all right. I take you to think you weren't going to count to me, you understand? But it was strange. I had no mass to go to Australia at all.
Yeah.
And I would never get, when we got there, we got to Perth, and to suddenly find that at 1 o'clock in the morning, because Tina and her mum and dad arrived, and our eldest 3 lads, one was 15, one was 13, one was 11 at the time, and that they could walk down the streets safe as a house. And sure, they went to all the training sessions, and sure, they knew all the lads on first names and so on. And it was a marvellous thing. But the funny thing is that when you're involved, and Pat will tell you this, I saw nothing of Perth because of doing what I was doing. When I got to Melbourne, gorgeous city, really saw nothing of it. And it was only when we got to Sydney, there was a chance, you met your family really. And but they had a great time, you know what I mean? But it was... But the lads were able to tell me about all the places that I should have been anyhow, you know what I mean? And I was very thankful.
I shouldn't have been.
So when I go back, I'll be able to know where to go, you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah. I'd say you could recommend a few bars, all right. These magic hands that you had then that set to work on Kieran's knee, was that a regular thing, for Meath players during the year? Various different players?
In 2006, when I was asked to do the Irish team, I met with Liam Mulvihill and Nicky Brennan, and I said, look, after what had happened in 2005, whoever comes in, I want them to feel that they're going to be like internationals. And I said, with the way Gaelic football had changed, because when I started first, every sideline ball was off the ground, every free was off the ground, and suddenly you're kicking the ball out of your hand, you could kick it back, and it was all so quick and so on. Whereas before that, there was a little more of a chance maybe for a back to get near the forward or whatever it was. Anyhow, so with the way the game had changed, really, there was no defined tackling Gaelic football, and I was actually afraid, physically afraid, of the Irish lads going into the tackle that they would get hurt. And they said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd love to take them away, and I'd love to get them, let them feel like internationals and so on. Anyhow, make a long story short, they said, where would you like to go? I said, I'd like to go to Toulouse. Right, were you talking to anybody there? I said, no. And, okay, do you think, will they take us? Well, I said, I can find out. Will you go out? And I went out. And a quiet man called Trevor Brennan picked me up. And we met all the powers that be. And they could not, Yannick Brune, they just could not have been nicer to us and more accommodating and so on. And the really fascinating thing, and Kieran bear me out in this, that you had internationals from 8 different countries all came out to train with you because they all wanted to go at another sport. They all fancied themselves at it. Like, I remember one time being in South Africa with our own team, and with the Stormers, Gert Small was training them. He took the Meath lads for a training session, and he took our lads for. He took them for a training session, and I took the Stormers for a session. And they loved to do so. But why I'm saying that is because one of the biggest lessons I ever got on that trip was Gareth Thomas was playing with Wales. It was the first at this stage. He was the first Welshman with 100 caps, and he was playing with Toulouse at the time. And on the second evening, we sat down, had a bite to eat, and I just said to Gareth, "What was it like to get picked for Wales?" And he's actually a very shy disposition, and he stopped, and he rubbed his head. He said, "I'll tell you what it's like." He said, "My father and my grandfather, they worked in the mines." And he said they couldn't wait to get up out of the mines because air conditioning was not a thing. There was ventilation, all right, but they couldn't wait to get up out of the mines. And they wanted to clear their lungs, and they played rugby to clear their lungs. And he said, "I got playing for my club. I got coached by my club." And he said it was the biggest honour I had. And then suddenly I get picked for Wales. And he said, you get your first cap, and you're given the jersey to bring home. I'll never forget this, Kieran. Will you ever get it? Mm-hmm. Gets the jersey. He said he goes up to the room. He was on the jersey. There were buttons on it at the time. He closed the buttons, and then he opened them. Then he closed them. He said, and I did my hair. I had hair at the time. And excuse me. And he said, I looked the real bollocks. I looked the real thing. But he said, suddenly he said, when I looked back in the mirror, I could see my father and I could see my grandfather and the chance I've been given and the honour I have. But he said, I also realised looking in that mirror, I could not be anybody else. I can be nobody but myself. And he said, from that day on, every dressing room I ever went into, if there was a mirror there, and if there wasn't, before I went, I'd look in that mirror for 2 minutes. And I would look and I'd see myself exactly as I am, not trying to be anybody else. Because if you try to be somebody else, if you can't be true to yourself, you can be true to nobody. Now, he was going through a torrid time at the time, right? And I will never forget the effect when he told that story of the lads. Every single one, they spoke about it because it's a situation that, you know, as Irish people, we're not great with praise. And we're not great at praising ourselves. We're not great at admiring the things we are actually good at. And here you have this guy who, in his own right, had taken over from Brian Driscoll, because of the piercing and so on, but an absolute legend. And here he was, absolutely delighted to sit down with these crowd of lachicos, of amateurs, right, from all over Ireland. And he talked about it for so much afterwards and so on, but the effect that had on us. And sometimes nearly you have to go away to find something like that. Now, there was a problem going in that you had Paul Galvin was teaching down in Cork, and Mark was teaching in Kerry, and Marty Lockhart was teaching up in Coleman's, right? Yep. And the problem was the two boys, the Kerry boys, they had missed so much time from teaching. It was difficult enough now to get somebody to stand in for them, right? And Sean Marty, the chairman of the board, even though he trained more Coleman's teams to win championships than anybody else, didn't want to let him go. So I rang 3 men, Tom Bailey, Sean Quinn, and Julius McAvady. So Mark was picked up, Galvin was picked up, Sean Martin was picked up. The 3 helicopters came into Dublin Airport and landed beside the plane. Lads, hold on, lads. Where are we going? So much for recession or whatever. But can I tell you it was?
And Mark would have no problem getting off. He's loads of fellas to get him off. He just didn't want to drive, Sean.
But it was more the fact really that, like, the regard that these players are held in by people. Like, anything that they can do to help them, they will do to help them. Now, the strange thing about it, like, when we were all younger and we were all playing Gaelic and hurling and everything else, right, you had this situation where if the club looked for a subscription off somebody, you know, we were hesitant about paying it. Whereas the same lads would play soccer on a Saturday. They pay for the referee, they pay for the transport and everything else. It was sort of, in a way, we expected the club to do everything. And the way it's all changed, and it's become so inclusive. But, like, the stars will be the stars, and they always will be. And, absolute, it was just, it was a huge honour for me. But I would say, to come to a situation where I came from, taking a job for 3 months and being there as long as I was, and to realise that the best lesson I ever learnt was from the players after we were hammered by Laois in 1985, beaten 10 points. And suddenly, lads who had won the Centenary Cup the previous year, they're no use, they're never any use. Sure, what to know? Your man's a hurler, he doesn't know anything about football. And I arrived in home this evening, about 5 weeks after we were beaten by Laois. My mother got me going through tea and brown bread, Rourke, Liam Hayes, Mick Lyons, Porg Lyons, Joe Castle and Colin O'Rourke, all sitting in the kitchen. You couldn't see the lads with my mother smoking, right? Health and safety, right? And I arrived in not knowing they were going to come. And they said, Mammy said, "No, up the house you crowd now, sort it out whatever you have to sort out." And it was to see where we're going to go. And because we were at a crossroads. And at the end, Porg Lyons said to me, he said, "Look, will you put your shyness in your arse pocket?" I said, "Porg, do you mean that?" He said, "I do." And from that day on, the chairs went round in a circle. Whatever we had to say before we left the room, the windscreen was clear. We didn't always get it right. But it was that realisation that these lads want to take the responsibility. And I suppose that's what made the change in Meath and Meath football. They wanted it, and they wanted the responsibility. And Rourke was, in his own quiet way, would say, like, if Sean's around long enough, we'll make a good manager out of it. And I'm very thankful to Rourke.
I was just going to say.
It was all the players.
Yeah, it seems a lot of great turning points in GAA come from a cup of tea in the manager's kitchen, and it all works out quite nicely. I want to get another legend up on stage. We are here tonight with thanks to SuperValu, who are celebrating their 10 years of sponsorship of the Football Championship. And I want to bring up a 10-time All-Ireland winner. Please give it up for Margaret Lawlor, or you might know her as Margaret Slattery.
Hi, Margaret. How are you doing? Hi, Margaret. Jesus Christ. Pleased to see you.
Thank you.
So, obviously in Kerry, they don't like to talk about what could have been with the 5 in a row. You won what? 9 in a row in the 80s?
That's right, yeah. I suppose it started in 74, and we were lucky that actually, seeing that we're in Killarney tonight, Tipperary won the first All-Ireland, and then in 75 we played a Munster final out in Fitzgerald Stadium, and we didn't have our own jerseys, so we had to hire them from the Men's County Board, and my father at the time was the treasurer. And it was a very small organisation. There was only just 4 clubs in the county.
Right.
We'll say Artfurt. Fossa at the time were representing Killarney, and you had Castle Island and Aston Stacks. So I suppose it was just like a little club in itself. So that was a thing. In 75, we rented the jerseys from the Kerry County Board. My father was the treasurer, and when he passed away, he had kept some of the material, seeing that he was the treasurer.
Yeah.
And the treasurer's report was very small. It was just one sheet of paper. So on it was the gate receipts were £11. The rent of the jerseys was £5, and we had tea and sandwiches afterwards in the Park Place Hotel, which was £5, so a profit of £1.
The ladies' football was making money right from the start. So ye had to pay the men's team to rent their jerseys.
Jerseys, yeah, because we didn't have our own, and like, how were we going to fund?
They had to do to wash them.
And then they had to turn a profit at the end of it all.
Yeah.
£5 sounds like a good bit of money. Like if there was £11 taken in, they charge you £5 for what do you give them to you for the hour and take them back.
Correct, yeah. So 75, and then you pushed on from there, I suppose. Really, 76 was a breakthrough for the team, because we had some absolutely excellent players. We'll say Mary Gainey was the captain of the team from Castle Island. She was well known at the time. She was playing camogie for Cork, and she was on the Irish hockey team. And we had Mary Murphy, who's another Killarney woman. And I suppose that time we went to the semi-final, really. I suppose we beat Tipperary in the Munster final. They were kind of, I suppose they had won the 2 previous All-Irelands. So 76, we played Cavan in the semi-final, and there again, transport was I suppose the cost, we had no money. So 6 cars went to Cavan, to Breffni Park to play the semi-final. And
no bus even? No
bus, no. 6 cars went up. So I suppose that was, at the time, training was in the front pitch, actually, in Fitzgerald Stadium. So a lot of us were going to school at the time. So you paid your own expenses. There was no, you were just, I suppose, looking back in it now, you were just delighted to be playing. And it really, money didn't come into it at all. So I suppose that was the joy of the whole thing. So we were lucky then we played Offaly in the final. And
where was that?
That was in Littleton in Tipperary. That's where it was played. So we weren't. I don't know exactly what reason we weren't allowed to play in Croke Park, but that came later on. So we were delighted. But there was no. I suppose you just went back into school the following day, and there was maybe
no media attention about it. There was no media. Was there media? It wasn't big. Was there big write-ups the following day?
No. Just a few lines in the paper, and that would be about it. Later on, Con Houlihan, who was a Castle Island man, took a great interest in ladies' football. So, but I suppose there again, I suppose a new sport and being female, and they're kind of
different times.
And I suppose now you have publicity, more publicity is covered by TG Cahir, and that makes a huge difference because it's exposed.
And you're the kind of trailblazers for that, though. Do you get a bit of a kick out of that, of where it is now that we were the ones that had to pay for the jerseys, and we were the ones that had to pay our own mileage, but look what you get now, they're getting expenses for their mileage like they should be, and they're getting the 50,000-60,000 in Croke Park. Are you happy for them, or is there a bit kind of going, geez, I wish this was here when I was getting 9 in a row?
No, because to us it was all about winning and the medals, and getting a medal. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what you want. And we all made huge sacrifices in our lives. So it didn't. But from the point of view of, we'll say, younger players coming through now and girls, I think and more equality.
Yeah.
And playing in Croke Park now, playing in big crowds. And playing in main venues, let's say, and even before men's matches now, which is a great promotion for the game.
You played in the first ladies' final in Croke Park as well.
Right. Yeah, that was in '86. So we played.
Did that
the year
feel like
before.
a big moment at the time?
Was it?
I suppose. Sorry.
Who was that against?
The first, that was against Offaly.
Offaly, oh yeah.
So I suppose
when you win 10, Sean, it's hard to remember who you beat in the final.
In '85, we played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So I suppose that was kind of the start of getting the games in
Better venues.
And getting in Croke Park. So I suppose that made a huge difference, and you had more exposure. And I suppose then, I suppose you're getting more clubs for starting, more girls were coming. Like at the moment, we have something like 36 clubs now in the county.
Right. So suddenly they had role models, somebody to aspire to be.
Correct, yeah. So I suppose that's the start, and you have all the under 12s, under 14s, girls coming through. I mean, under 16s have been quite successful the last number of years. So the difficulty will be in trying to hold the players from, we'll say, 15, 16 to 20, 21. That's the challenge.
Because where the team is at the moment, then, it's funny when you look at ladies football, the cycles it's gone through, there's always seems to have been one dominant team, and it went from Kerry through to Waterford to Monaghan to Mayo, then Cork obviously were so dominant. Now it looks as though Dublin are going to take it up another level, and Kerry played Dublin in the quarter-final on Monday.
That's right, yeah.
It's 2012 the last time Kerry were in a final.
That's right, yeah.
Let's go back Cork, quite a bit for the last time they actually won it. Like, what's going on that Kerry haven't been able to maintain that at senior level?
Yeah, I suppose that's the challenge. It's 26 years now since they 93 when they last won. I suppose you get a group of players together and they stays together. I suppose that's the challenge. Let's say when we had the 9 in a row team, let's say you had 12 or 13 players for that period of time, 10, 11 years, let's say. So it's easy to keep a winning team together.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose the stage has changed in that girls a lot go to college more, and they do masters, or they take a year out and they travel, and I suppose that's the changes. And
I guess while conditions are improving and things are getting better, there's still a long way to go before it catches up fully with where the men's game is in terms of how the players look after. So if they're in college in Galway or Limerick, it's difficult for them to probably justify coming home for training twice a week.
Yeah, I said that alone, the one we did down in St. Finbarrs in Cork, like that they're not given mileage. The ladies footballers are not given mileage to come for training. They make their own way, trains, whatever, their cars or whatever, which was a complete shock. And remember, I think we all sort of assumed that they did.
It's mad. Like 1987, Meath won the All-Ireland. 17% of the population of Ireland were employed. 23% of the population of Meath. But you didn't care. You had the Sam Maguire. You were the richest people in the world. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And when you think the way the ladies' game has developed, it's been probably the most progressive of all. But it's a brilliant game. But you take when the girls now go abroad, no matter where they go, there's a Gaelic, there's a ladies' football team everywhere.
Club, yeah.
And it is, but it's a great place. It's a great certainty for parents when their children go away, that the club is there. You know what I mean? And they look after each other, they mind each other. But it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big advantage when girls do go away. There's clubs in Boston, New York, let's say. I'd meet girls that I'd have trained at school, national school level, that are in secondary school, and they've all joined a ladies football club in Australia, America, in England. And I mean, that's brilliant from a parent point of view. They can get a job, they're not lonely, and they'll fit into a group of 10 or 20. And I mean, that's what you want at the end of the day. It's all about really, sports all about community at the end of the day. And taking you over the difficult years. So especially probably in any sport, we'll say for male or female, from we'll say 16 to 21 is a challenge, let's say. Yeah. So that's what sport does.
But even go back to the start, the skill factor was amazing.
Yeah, I suppose that's the big advantage. We had players, Mary Jo Curran and her sister Phil, outstanding footballers. You also had Castle Island. They won the club All-Ireland in 80 and 83, and they were in the final in 86, and they lost that. So that was the backbone of our team as well. So I suppose you had Beaufort were, I suppose, they won the 2 years that we didn't win the All-Ireland. They won the club seven-a-sides. So you had the players, you had the raw material, and we won the minors in 80 and 81. So, that was the foundation of our senior team at the time. The talent was there.
Could I ask a
question? Go on, Sean,
yeah. Tell me, did you ever have the father and mother of a row in a match, did you?
A father and mother.
Of a row in the match.
Oh, yeah.
Did you pull her hair and she pulled yours?
And did your best player get sent off, but the opposition just had one of their, regular guys sent off, and you didn't win an All-Ireland for 60? Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. We're in Achill next week. I'll talk to Lee McHale about that.
The funny thing is that when we started off our own club in Ardfert, and Austin Stacks came out to play, and I was going to school, and I was only living a half a mile from the sports field. So I flew over on my bike, and there was only 7 or 8 players in the dressing rooms. Austin Stacks arrived in a bus. Del White, Marina Barry, Anne Nocton, Anne Callaghan. And they said to Margaret, have you a team? Oh, I said, I have. We have a team now. They're all coming. They're a bit late. So I knew we had a problem. So I had to think on my feet fairly quick. So I flew up to the village, which is only about 200 yards on the bike. And I went in and I got a few Mars bars. And I went out and I met a few more girls. And I says, look, we have a match this evening. Will you come down for a half an hour? And there's the Mars bar. So
You're going around bribing
I got
them.
7 or 8 girls down to the pitch.
Brilliant.
Do what you got to do.
The thing is, you're talking about game plans and things like that. We were really thinking on our feet in that Helen Slattery and Mary Ferris was the other 2 girls on the 76 team as well. And it was basically the 3 of us organising the team. And all the girls that we had got from the village, let's say down, we put them all on the wing. And then the 4 or 5 girls that were able to play.
You're like Sean.
I got even the international rules, yeah.
So it was a blanket defence and we all attacked together. Like. So, and the important thing is that we beat the Stacks that
evening. She set us up well there, didn't she?
Yeah. Is it an impossible task for Kerry this coming Monday against this Dublin team?
Yeah, it's going to be challenging. We'll want a good start and I suppose a goal or 2. We have Hannah O'Donoghue and Louise Nimmer-Hurtig and Lorraine Scanlon midfield. We need a big game, let's say. But Dublin is a well-oiled machine and, they can draw on their subs as well. They've a big panel. They're probably ahead of Kerry from the point of view of, we'll say, strength and conditioning and where they are and experience-wise as well. So, but I'd never write off Kerry at the same time because, there's a lot of new young players coming through. And I suppose if you go back to kind of even 75, you just never know on the day. But we'll need a little bit of luck, and it's overdue at this stage as well.
Yeah, it certainly is.
We'll be hoping for the best on Monday.
We'll keep a close eye on that. Just before we let you go, Sean, I hadn't actually realised until recently just how close yourself and Kieran were, and from that initial rub of the knee, it continued into regular visits down to Dunboyne. Was it pretty much before every big game and pushing Darren on the swing?
Yeah.
Was he pushing you? I hope you were pushing him.
No, he was pushing him.
Oh, dear God. Sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a Tina. We'd go down and the tea would be made and the brown bread would be out, homemade jam.
So this would be you'd be up in Dublin to play in Croke Park.
It'd be the morning of the game.
Right.
So I'd have one breakfast in the hotel. There's a lot of me there, Nathan. There's a lot of me there. And we'd go down to Sean and the gang and the family and yeah. What I found it great for was I found it as a great kind of just to bring me down, relax me down, and as well as I'd probably have some ailment that I'd want him to just put his hands on.
Ones you never heard.
But the main thing was the chat. And Sean he's an unbelievable memory, and he'd remember every single person's name, which I'm terrible at with my dyslexia. But Sean, he'd have every single. Come over, Tommy. I met Tommy back in 1964 once, the long thing, and I'd be like, going, how does he remember his name? But he'd be telling stories, and he'd unwind me. Which is what I, not that I was very wound up guy, but I would be the kind of morning of a game. I wouldn't let on to anybody, especially my teammates, but I would be worried. And the older you get in, the more you worry because, it's not going to be, this could be your last year. And I was probably telling Sean that for a few years.
I have to say, the day that he came on against Galway, having been out for 19 months, not having played.
That was Mayo I came on against, Sean. It's Mayo.
Oh, Mayo, sorry, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Was there a replay with that one, was there?
No,
There was a replay in Limerick a few days later.
Well, the
I'm
funny
not
thing,
coming back to
he
Killarney.
comes in, he hasn't played for, as long as he hasn't played, he gets 6 balls and he gets 3 frees. You know, he creates a goal, gets a score and gets another point. And it was just a remarkable performance. And that, I don't care who was training, whatever it was, it was within the man himself. And down in Limerick then afterwards, to play the full, extra time, the whole lot. It's an extraordinary achievement, Kieran. That's credit, that's to yourself. Nobody can make you do that but yourself. That was super.
You held it, Sean, thanks.
Yes, I got a clap! Hey! Well done, Sean. Yeah.
I'm tempted to ask Tina what she thought every Saturday morning when you rocked up and ate them out of house and home.
Jesus, another loaf of brown bread, guys.
We're going to finish up this part. We're going to take a very short break. We are here with thanks to SuperValu, who are celebrating their 10 years as sponsors of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Please give it up to Margaret Lawlor and to Sean Boylan as well.